Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're on a mission, really. We want to boil down decades of complex financial ideas into something clear, something actionable for you.
Yeah, kind of data-backed instruction manual.
Exactly. And we're diving deep into this really powerful idea. Just keep buying.
Right, JKB. It sounds simple, maybe, but it's more than just a catchphrase. It's grounded in, well, psychology and math.
It captures that core need for regular investment, just consistently being in the market.
Maximizing your time in the market, yeah.
And the story behind this philosophy, it's quite moving, actually, but it really drives home the point. It involves the author's grandfather.
Mm-hmm. A man who sadly had a serious gambling problem. Cards, horse racing.
The whole bit.
Yeah.
And the thing is, his expenses were minimal. His own mother actually covered his food and housing.
And yet he had a reliable income.
A pension, right?
$2,200 a month.
Every single month for 26 years of retirement.
But he died in 2019 with absolutely nothing. Zero assets.
That gambling compulsion just consumed everything.
It's a stark reminder, isn't it? How destructive bad financial habits can be, even with steady cash flow.
But here's the really shocking part, the counterfactual that underpins this whole JKB idea.
Okay.
If that grandfather, if he'd just taken half of that money, $1,100 a month, the money he was gambling away anyway, and just
bought stocks.
Yeah, just invested it every month into a broad U.S. stock market index fund,
Bro.
he would have died a millionaire.
Wow. Even with the gambling. Just half.
Just half. And here's the kicker, the real stress test for this idea.
Go on.
A huge chunk of that investing period, over 8 years of it, would have happened during the absolute worst decade for U.S. stocks in recent memory.
You mean 2000 to 2009?
Exactly. Dot-com bust, 9/11, the '08 financial crisis. Just brutal.
So the consistency didn't just beat the bad habit.
It beat the worst market environment in like 50 years. And it worked because the market was terrible sometimes.
Right, because he was automatically buying assets when they were cheap. Depressed prices.
Didn't need skill, didn't need timing, didn't need to follow the news.
Just discipline. Invest $1,100 on the first of the month. Every month.
That's the power we're digging into today.
So our goal here is to give you, the listener, that same kind of framework. Consistent, backed by data.
And when we say just keep buying JKB, we mean dollar cost averaging, basically. Regular periodic investing.
But with that added psychological component, right? The thing that helps you stick with it, stops you from panicking or trying to be clever, and time the dips.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, this is actually easier to do now than ever before.
Oh, totally. Think about it. Years ago, buying stocks regularly meant huge transaction fees.
Yeah, commissions would eat you alive on small amounts.
But now, free trading platforms, super cheap index funds, even fractional shares.
Meaning you can buy like $10 worth of an S&P 500 fund.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The barriers are just gone. Anyone can JKB now.
And we're going to hit some surprising conclusions today, too. Things that go against the grain.
Like maybe saving 20% isn't always the best advice.
Right. Or how certain kinds of debt, even credit card debt for some people, might actually be, well, rational.
And why maybe ignoring most of the financial noise and just sticking to the plan is the real path to building wealth.
Okay, let's dive into part one. The foundation, saving and income. First big question, where should you actually put your energy, your limited time?
Yeah, this is key. We call it the save-invest continuum.
Yeah.
And look, maybe a slightly provocative way to frame it is saving is mostly for the poor. Investing is mostly for the rich.
And we're using poor and rich relatively here, right?
Yeah.
Depending on where you are on your financial journey.
Absolutely. It's about where your effort yields the biggest return right now.
I remember this myself. Just out of college, I had maybe, $5,000 saved up? And I spent hours.
Oh, yeah. Doing what?
Researching mutual funds, agonizing over like a 0.05% difference in expense ratios. I thought I was being so smart, so sophisticated.
But the math just doesn't work in your favor then.
How so?
Well, with $5,000 invested, even if you get a fantastic 10% return for the year, that's only $500.
Right. $500 for a whole year of market risk and research.
And then you think about living costs. You mentioned San Francisco.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah.
And honestly, one big night out with friends, dinner, drinks, Ubers could easily blow through $500.
See, one weekend could wipe out your entire year's investment gains.
So all that time I spent picking the perfect fund.
Almost totally wasted from a pure return perspective. Your energy should have been 100% on earning more or saving more. Avoiding that $500 night out, that's an immediate, guaranteed $500 return.
Which dwarfs anything the $5,000 portfolio could realistically do.
Exactly. Dollar for dollar, saving wins early on.
Okay, so when does that balance shift? When does it actually make sense to worry less about saving that extra dollar and more about, say, asset allocation or tax efficiency?
It shifts when your capital base gets significant. Let's flip the example. Imagine someone with, say, $5 million invested.
Okay, different league.
Right. Now, a pretty normal market dip, maybe 10%. That costs them $500,000.
Ouch. Yeah, you can't just save your way back from that loss. Not easily.
Exactly. Unless you're earning truly massive amounts, you can't offset that kind of drop by just cutting expenses. Their focus has to be on managing investment risk, optimizing returns, tax strategies. That's where their leverage is.
That makes total sense. So how can someone listening figure out where they are on this spectrum, objectively?
You need to calculate your go-no-go metric. Basically, compare two numbers in dollar terms.
Okay, what are they?
First, your expected annual savings, or EAS. How much cold, hard cash do you realistically expect to save and invest this year?
Right, the contributions.
Second, your expected investment growth, EIG. A rough estimate is fine. Take your current total portfolio value, multiply by a reasonable expected market return, say 7%, maybe adjust your mix of stocks and bonds.
Okay, so let's say I expect to save $20,000 this year. That's my EAS. But my portfolio is still small, so maybe my EIG, my expected growth, is only $10,000.
Right. So 20K savings versus 10K growth. Which number is bigger?
The savings, 20K.
Then that's where 90% of your focus should be. Don't sweat the difference between a 7% or 8% investment return. Focus on finding ways to boost that $20K number, earn more, spend less, attack the bigger number.
And this changes over time, obviously.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of it. It shows a long-term path.
If you visualize it, like on a chart, the compound effect is amazing.
Yeah, in those first 10, maybe 15 years, most of the growth in your net worth comes from that dark bar, the bar, your contributions, your savings, you're doing the heavy lifting.
Your labor is funding the growth.
But then compounding starts to really kick in. That EIG bar, the investment growth, it gets bigger and bigger. It overtakes your savings.
And by the end of a typical working career, say 30 or 40 years,
the data suggests nearly 70% of your total wealth comes not from the money you saved, but from the investment gains, the compounding.
70%, that's wow.
Your money starts working harder than you do. That's the goal.
Okay, that's incredibly motivating. But, to get to that point, you got to save first.
Let's talk about those traditional savings rules, the ones that trip people up.
Ah, yes. The classic, save 20% of your income. Just a flat rule.
Sounds simple, but
research shows it often fails. Why? Because it assumes your income is stable and your ability to save is constant. And whose life is really like that?
nobody's, really. Careers change. Life happens.
Exactly. The book uses this great analogy from biology. There's this fish in Alaska, the Dolly Varden char.
Okay.
It's a master adapter. It shows something called phenotypic plasticity. When its main food source, salmon eggs, is everywhere,
Yeah.
its digestive tract literally doubles in size to process all that rich food. But when food is scarce, the tract shrinks right down to conserve energy.
Ah, I see where you're going. We need financial plasticity.
Precisely. Get a huge bonus, expand your savings, digestive tract, save aggressively, change jobs, move to an expensive city, have a kid, shrink the tract, save less temporarily.
Don't force that rigid 20% if it means misery or going into debt. Right. The author mentions his own savings rate crashed from 40% down to just 4% when he moved from Boston to New York for a new role.
Trying to force 20% then would have been impossible or just awful.
Constant anxiety. And that anxiety isn't free. Money worries consistently top the stress polls.
So the best advice isn't a fixed number.
It's simply save what you can based on your current situation. Be flexible like the fish.
Okay, so how do you figure out what you can save? You need the savings equation. Savings, income, spending. Income's usually the easy part.
Spending's the tricky one. It fluctuates.
So do you need to track every single coffee?
Probably not. That usually leads to burnout. The recommendation is more strategic. First, nail down your fixed monthly costs. Rent, mortgage, car payment, insurance and must-pays. Get that number super accurate.
Okay.
Then, estimate the variable stuff. Groceries, entertainment, clothes, whatever. And here's a good practical tip. Put all that variable spending on one specific credit card.
Just one card for all the wants and fluctuating needs?
Yeah. Pay it off each month, of course.
Yeah.
But it makes it way easier to see where that money is going, estimate it, and potentially cut back if needed. Much simpler than tracking dozens of small cash purchases.
That makes sense. Get a handle on the big fixed stuff, then isolate the variable stuff.
Right. But once you do that, you might discover something surprising. The retirement paradox.
Paradox? How so?
Well, the common fear is running out of money in retirement, right?
Yeah, constantly hearing that.
But study after study finds many retirees don't actually spend down their assets. Their financial nest egg often stays level or even increases throughout retirement.
Wait, really? They die with more money than they retired with?
Or out about the same, yeah. Often because they end up spending less than the income generated by their investments, Social Security, pensions, etc. They effectively oversaved.
So the psychological fear, fueled by advice, is maybe worse than the reality for many.
It often seems to be. But that feeling of not enough,
Hmm.
it's persistent. It sticks with us.
There's data on this too, right? About how people perceive wealth.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Ask average Americans what rich is. They say maybe $2.3 million. Ask actual millionaires.
They say a higher number.
Much higher. They define rich as $7.5 million on average.
Huh. So the goalposts always move.
Always. It's a relative feeling. Which leads us to what the book calls maybe the biggest obstacle for most people building wealth.
Okay, what's that?
It's framed as the biggest lie in personal finance.
Intriguing. The biggest lie is
That focusing primarily on cutting spending is the way to get rich, especially for lower earners.
the cut your lattes advice. Let's unpack this. The book uses an analogy, right? Exercise versus diet.
Exactly. Think about weight loss. Intense exercise helps, but your body often compensates. It makes you hungrier, or maybe you unconsciously move less the rest of the day, reducing your neat, non-exercise activity.
Okay, so there are limits to how much exercise alone can do.
Right. Similarly, there are hard limits to cutting spending, especially if you're already lean.
Well-
Cut too much, your quality of life tanks, you get mentally exhausted. Maybe you even rebound and splurge later. There's a floor.
And for many people, that floor is well below ground level already.
That's the harsh reality. Look at the data for the bottom 20% of U.S. households by income. They consistently spend more than 100% of their take-home pay.
More. How?
Debt.
Debt assistance, drawing down tiny savings. Yeah, and it's not on luxuries, it's on just 4 essential categories: food, housing, healthcare, transportation.
Necessities.
Absolute necessities. The numbers are brutal. Average monthly income for that group, around $1,020. Average spending on just those 4 basics, nearly $1,147.
Whoa! They're almost $1,000 short just for the basics.
So telling someone in that situation to save 20% or cut their latte habit, it's absurd. It's mathematically impossible without cutting essentials like food or housing in half.
So the latte lie isn't just unhelpful, it's actively harmful because it blames the victim.
It completely misses the point. For the vast majority struggling, the problem isn't frivolous spending, it's insufficient income, period.
And this connects to that economic idea, diminishing marginal utility, the law of the stomach. Yeah. Higher income households, say the top 20%, might earn 14 times more than the bottom 20%. But do they spend 14 times more on food and housing? No way.
Right, you can only eat so much food or live in so many houses.
They spend maybe 3.3 times more on those core necessities. Once basics are covered, the spending on them slows way down. This means high earners have massive amounts of income left over. Saving is easy for them, relatively speaking.
It highlights the poverty trap, too.
Absolutely. There was a study mentioned, London School of Economics, looking at wealth transfers in Bangladesh.
What did it find?
It found that it wasn't lack of motivation or talent keeping people poor. It was the lack of initial capital. Without a small cushion, you're stuck in low-paying, time-consuming jobs. You have no time or resources to get skills, start a small business, or find a better path.
You're trapped.
Trapped. So the most reliable, powerful path to wealth isn't pinching pennies on coffee.
It's
growing your income. And then, crucially, using that increased income to buy assets that produce more income.
Okay, let's focus on income then. We all start with human capital. Our skills, our time, our knowledge.
Right. The value we can generate through work. How do we turn that into financial capital, into assets?
The book lays out 5 paths, sort of ranked by scalability.
Okay. Path 1.
Just selling time or expertise, trading hours for dollars, basic job. Not very scalable.
Right. That too.
Selling a skill or service. Think specialized consulting, freelance design, therapy. Better pay, you build a reputation, but you still generally have to do the work each time, limited by your hours.
Still trading time mostly. Path 3.
Teaching people. Leveraging your knowledge. This starts to scale. Online courses, books, workshops, you create it once, reach many.
Separates income from your direct time input more.
Oh.
Okay, path 4.
Even more scalable, selling a product, especially digital products, software, templates, ebooks. Create once, sell infinitely online with very low marginal cost.
That's where you see rapid wealth creation sometimes. And the last path.
Path 5, climbing the corporate ladder. Maybe less glamorous, but often the most reliable, lowest risk path, especially if you're young or lack capital.
You gain skills, experience, network, get steady paychecks, benefits.
Right. It takes time. The typical self-made millionaire apparently takes 32 years. It's a marathon, building human capital steadily.
But no matter which path or combination of paths you take to increase income, the ultimate goal has to be ownership.
Meaning?
You must convert that income, earned via your human capital, which inevitably declines with age, into financial capital assets that grow and produce income over time.
Like the Jerry Richardson example, the NFL player turned billionaire.
Perfect example. He made decent money as a player, but not billions. His real wealth came from owning Hardee's franchises, then owning the Carolina Panthers NFL team. He shifted from labor to ownership.
That mindset shift is critical. From high-paid worker to asset owner, that's the leverage.
That's the game changer.
Okay, so we're focusing on income. But then there's the guilt, spending the money we earn. We shouldn't live feeling anxious about every purchase, right?
Absolutely not. But the traditional finance world often uses guilt as a tool, and it can backfire badly.
Like that story about the coworker, Dennis, trying to game the Uber surge pricing.
Oh yeah, that's a classic example of penny-wise, pound-foolish, driven by anxiety. He was in San Francisco.
And he tried moving his pickup pin on the map. Where? The middle of the bay.
To the middle of San Francisco Bay, yeah, because the algorithm apparently showed zero surge there. He figured he'd lock that in, then quickly update to his real location.
We'll just save maybe $5 or $10.
Probably. But on New Year's Eve, the system glitched or something. He got hit with a $264 fare.
Oh my God. The time wasted, the stress, all for a tiny potential saving ended up costing him hugely.
Exactly. So we need ways to spend without that counterproductive guilt. The book offers 2 great behavioral tricks. First, the 2X rule.
The 2X rule, how does that work?
Simple. Anytime you decide to splurge on something non-essential, fancy shoes, a gadget, a big trip, you must immediately match that spending amount by investing it or donating it to charity.
So if I buy $500 headphones?
You immediately transfer $500 to your brokerage account or your favorite charity.
Ah, I see. It forces you to confront the true cost, but also removes the guilt.
Right. You've automatically enforced a 50% marginal savings rate on that luxury spending. The splurge itself becomes a trigger to save or give more.
And it makes you pause. Do I really want these headphones enough to commit $1,000 in total? $500 for the item, $500 for saving, donating?
Exactly. If yes, great. Enjoy them guilt-free. You've earned it and boosted your future self.
But hang on, is this rule really for everyone? What about someone just starting out struggling to cover basics? Should they be doubling splurges?
That's a really important point. No, the 2X rule isn't for the person fighting to pay rent. It's for the person who has covered necessities and now has disposable income, but is prone to lifestyle creep or guilt over discretionary spending.
Okay, so it's a tool for managing discretionary funds, not basic needs.
Precisely. For the early earner, it's still about boosting that human capital, getting income up first.
Got it. Okay, what's the second tip for guilt-free spending?
Focus on maximizing fulfillment, not just fleeting happiness. Fulfillment, in this context, comes from 3 things: autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
So if a purchase actually supports one of those pillars,
then it's likely justified, even if old-school finance might call it a waste. Buying a better laptop that helps you excel at your job, that builds mastery.
or taking a course, or maybe even that daily latte.
Yeah, if that latte genuinely helps you focus and perform better at work, boosting your career, mastery, and thus your human capital, maybe it is money well spent for you. It's personal.
And there's data backing this up too, isn't there, about spending matching personality?
There is. Research suggests that spending money in ways that align with your psychological profile, like an introvert buying books versus an extrovert buying concert tickets, actually correlates more strongly with life satisfaction than just having a higher income overall.
So spend in ways that genuinely fulfill you, based on your values and needs.
That's the idea. Personalized, guilt-free spending focused on long-term well-being.
Okay, speaking of spending and income, the big risk as income grows, lifestyle creep. We spend more just because we earn more.
It's insidious.
Yeah.
The Vanderbilt example is the cautionary tale, right?
Yeah.
Huge fortune, hundreds of millions,
Billions in today's dollars.
gone in a couple of generations. Why? Each generation just spent a little bit more, inflating their lifestyle until it outpaced the investments.
So how much lifestyle creep is okay? Is there a rule?
The book offers a really simple, practical one. Save at least 50% of all future raises and bonuses.
50%. Half for you now, half for future you.
Exactly. And there's an interesting math behind why this is especially crucial for people who are already high savers.
Oh, yeah. Why them specifically?
Let's say you have Annie already saving 50% of her income and Bobby saving only 10%. They both get the same $10,000 raise.
Okay.
For Bobby, the low saver, to keep his retirement date the same, he only needs to save about 15% of that raise, $1,500.
Because his spending base is already high.
Right. But Annie, the high saver, because her spending base is so low, if she spends a large chunk of that raise, it dramatically increases the total nest egg she needs for retirement, based on the 25x spending rule.
It pushes her target way up.
Way up. To keep her retirement date the same, she actually needs to save around 74% of that raise, $7,400.
Wow. That's the high savers paradox. The better you are at saving, the more disciplined you need to be with raises.
Which is why the simple 50% rule is so effective. It might not be mathematically perfect for everyone like Annie, but it's easy to remember, easy to implement, and keeps both high and low savers moving in the right direction.
Half for now, half for later. Fits perfectly with the 2x rule psychology, too.
Exactly. Consistent philosophy.
All right, let's shift gears into part 2. Making your money work. Moving from saving to investing strategy. And first up is debt, often painted as the big villain.
Yeah. Debt gets a bad rap, but fundamentally it's just a tool. Can be used well, can be used poorly.
The book mentions this interesting credit card debt puzzle. What's that about?
It's where you see some low-income individuals carrying high-interest credit card debt, even though they have enough liquid savings in the bank to pay it off.
That sounds financially illogical. Why pay 20% interest when you have the cash?
It can actually be a form of risk management, like bet hedging.
Hedging against what?
Against future financial fragility. They worry about losing access to credit later if something bad happens. Paying that interest now is like buying an insurance policy. It guarantees they have immediate cash liquidity from their savings if a shock hits. It reduces the risk of total ruin, even at a short-term cost.
Huh. That's unexpectedly sophisticated.
It can be. And there are behavioral reasons, too. Sometimes people take high-interest loans because the pain of the interest forces them to repay it quickly, a kind of commitment device.
Interesting. But we have to acknowledge the stress, right? Debt isn't just numbers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The non-financial costs are real. Studies consistently link non-mortgage debt credit cards, personal loans to higher stress, depression, even higher blood pressure.
But mortgage debt is different.
It seems to cause the least stress. Maybe because it's tied to a tangible asset, feels more planned, often has a fixed payment. It feels less precarious.
So the guideline for using debt should be?
Use it strategically, either to reduce risk, like locking in housing costs with a fixed mortgage, or to potentially generate a return higher than the interest cost, like for education or a calculated business investment.
Which leads us straight to the biggest debt for most, housing. Is buying a home a good investment?
Well, the data is sobering. Robert Shiller, Nobel laureate, looked at U.S. housing from 1915 to 2015. The inflation-adjusted return, just from price appreciation, only 0.6% per year.
0.6%. That's basically flat for 100 years after inflation.
Pretty much. Now, obviously, that doesn't capture everything. You get leverage, potential tax benefits, imputed rent.
And the non-financial value of having your own place. Stability, control.
Huge value there, but purely as a financial asset appreciating. It's historically lagged way behind stocks, which are closer to 7% real return. Plus, you have significant costs with housing.
Oh, yeah. Closing costs.
2 to 5%. Realtor commissions.
3 to 6% usually.
PMI if you put down less than 20%. And then ongoing maintenance.
Figure 1 to 2% of the home's value every year, plus your own time and hassle.
Right. So if the appreciation is only 0.6%, those costs easily eat up any purely financial gain from price increases.
But people still build wealth through housing. How?
Mainly through leverage and forced savings. Paying down the mortgage principal month after month is a fantastic savings mechanism, especially for people who aren't naturally disciplined savers.
Okay. So when should someone listening consider buying?
Stability is key. Personally, professionally. Are you likely to stay put for a while? Financially, you ideally want to be able to put 20% down to avoid PMI. and keep your overall debt-to-income ratio below about 43%.
And given those high transaction costs?
The advice often is, try to wait and save for the home that fits your longer-term needs, rather than buying a small starter home knowing you'll probably move and incur all those costs again in just a few years. Buy bigger, buy less often, if possible.
Makes sense. So if you are saving for that big down payment, where should you keep the money? Time horizon matters here, right?
Hugely. If your goal is short-term, say less than 2 years away,
Cash.
cash is king, yeah.
Yeah.
Bonds might yield a tiny bit more, but the risk isn't worth it. What if the market drops 10% right before you need the down payment?
Disaster.
Exactly. Statistically, aiming for a $24,000 goal took about 26 months with cash versus 25 months with bonds on average. That 1 month saved isn't worth the potential loss.
But for a long-term goal, 5 years out or more.
Then cash is actually the risky option. Because of inflation.
The silent killer.
It really is. If you're aiming for a $60,000 goal 5+ years away, holding cash means inflation will likely force you to save for an extra 7 months just to maintain purchasing power.
So for longer-term goals, you need some growth.
You need a balanced portfolio, stocks and bonds, something that can realistically outpace inflation over that time frame.
Okay, perfect segue. Let's talk investing philosophy, the core of JKB Buy Now versus trying to time the market.
The fundamental truth is that markets, especially equity markets, tend to go up over time. Most of the time.
So waiting usually means
Paying a higher price later. The bias should always be towards investing capital as soon as you have it. Get it working.
and the data compares putting a lump sum in immediately, buy now, versus dribbling it in over time, average in or DCA.
Yep. And for the S&P 500, going back to 1997, buy now lump sum beats average in DCA in about 76% of all rolling 12-month periods.
3/4 of the time, you're better off just getting the money in ASAP.
And when DCA does underperform, it lags by about 4% on average over that year.
So DCA only really wins
If you happen to start averaging in right before a big market crash, because then you benefit from buying at lower and lower prices.
But predicting crashes is, well, impossible.
Exactly. And sitting in cash waiting for that 24% chance that DCA wins is statistically a losing strategy most of the time.
Okay, so mathematically, buy now wins. But psychologically, that temptation to wait for a dip is strong. I'll just hold this cash until the market pulls back.
Oh, it's incredibly tempting, but also incredibly destructive to long-term returns. There's a simulation in the book.
The godlike timer.
Yeah. Imagine you had perfect foresight. You knew the exact bottom of every single market dip between 1920 and 1980. You only invested at those absolute low points.
Perfect timing. You'd crush it.
You'd think so. But even that perfect buy-the-dip strategy still underperformed simple, boring DCA in over 70% of the 40-year period studied.
Wait, how is that even possible? Perfect timing loses to just investing regularly.
Because the truly big dips, the ones that make a huge difference, are rare. Most of the time, the market is going up. So the perfect timer spends way too much time sitting in cash, missing out on gains, waiting for a crash that doesn't come often enough.
And if you miss the bottom by just a little bit?
The advantage collapses. Miss the exact bottom by just 2 months, and the chance of buy the dip beating DCA falls from maybe 30% down to basically negligible, like 3%.
Wow, okay. The conclusion seems unavoidable.
Invest as soon as you have the money, as often as you can. Just keep buying.
But let's tackle that fear directly. I get a $100,000 inheritance. The math says buy now. But I'm terrified of putting it all in stocks tomorrow and seeing the market drop 20% next week. Isn't DCA better for managing that emotion?
It feels better emotionally. DCA can be like a psychological safety blanket. But remember, that blanket costs you about 4% in expected return, on average.
So what's the alternative if I'm just too nervous for 100% stocks lump sum?
The data suggests a potentially better approach than holding cash and averaging in slowly.
Which is?
Buy now, but into a more conservative portfolio initially.
So take the full $100K, invest it immediately, but maybe into like a 60% stock, 40% bond mix.
Exactly. Or even 50-50, whatever makes you comfortable sleeping at night. You get 100% of your money working right away, earning some return, fighting inflation.
But without the full volatility exposure of 100% stocks from day one.
Right. And then over time, if you get more comfortable or market conditions change, you can gradually increase your stock allocation. You transition the risk rather than sitting on value-eroding cash.
That makes a lot of sense. Manage risk through allocation, not timing.
Precisely. Which brings us neatly to the things we truly can't control. Luck, and
But
volatility.
luck plays a huge role, doesn't it? Especially when you start investing. Sequence of returns.
Massive role. Look at the historical range of 10-year returns for the S&P 500 since 1910. The best 10-year periods gave you over plus 16% per year. The worst.
Negative, right?
Yeah, down negative 3% per year. That's almost a 20 percentage point swing, purely based on when your 10-year window happened to fall. Nothing to do with skill.
So you could be a genius investor.
Yeah, beat the market by 5% every year. But if you did that during a lousy stretch like 1960 to 1980,
You'd end up with less money.
then a terrible investor who underperformed the market by 5% a year but happened to invest during a massive boom like 1980 to 2000.
Wow. Luck of the draw, timing, matters more than skill over some periods.
It really does. And the timing of bad luck matters hugely.
Especially later in life.
Critically. A big market crash when you're 25. Annoying, but your future contributions will buy cheap assets.
Huh.
A big crash when you're 65 with your largest ever portfolio and maybe starting withdrawals.
Devastating. Can derail the whole plan.
And that's sequence risk. It's unavoidable, so you have to accept volatility.
It's the price of admission for getting those higher equity returns.
Exactly. Since 1950, the S&P 500 has had an average intra-year drop from peak to trough of almost 14%.
14%. That's a big swing. Happens almost every year on average.
Yep. You have to expect it. Internalize it. If you try to sidestep even smaller dips, say 5% drops,
You'd be selling all the time.
you'd end up in bonds like 90% of the time historically. And your final wealth would be maybe 90% less than if you just bought and held. Trying to avoid volatility kills returns.
Is there an optimal level of pain to endure?
It's a theoretical exercise, but the analysis suggests if you had a magic wand to avoid only the really bad drawdowns, say those greater than 15%,
That would have been the sweet spot.
that would have maximized historical returns. So accepting those drops up to 15% is just necessary. It's the cost of doing business in stocks.
And when those really big ones do hit the crashes, the 30%, 40%, 50% drops.
Those are almost always generational buying opportunities.
I liked the anecdote in the book for staying rational during the March 2020 madness, the flower vendor.
Yeah, the author saw this guy outside the grocery store, calmly arranging his flowers, business as usual, while the market was in free fall.
A little moment of normalcy.
Exactly. It was a reminder that even in a financial panic, the real economy, people's basic needs and desires, hadn't just vanished overnight. It helped frame the panic as maybe overblown.
And the data backs up buying into panic.
Strongly. Historically, buying the S&P 500 anytime it was already down 30% or more from its peak resulted in future annualized returns of over 10% more than half the time going forward. If you bought when it was down 50% or more,
Even better returns.
future annualized returns often exceeded 25%. You have to have the stomach and the cash to JKB when things look bleakest.
Okay, so we're buying quickly, buying often, buying even in crashes. What should we be buying beyond just broad stock and bond funds? Think like an owner, right? Acquire income streams.
Exactly. Look beyond the standard 60-40. Real estate investment trusts, REITs, are interesting.
They own properties, collect rent.
And by law, they have to pay out 90% of their taxable income as dividends. So high yields real estate exposure, but without the hassle of being a direct landlord.
What about farmland?
Good diversifier. Low correlation to stocks, historically. It's a real asset, inflation hedge.
And returns come from.
Two sources mainly. The crop yields and the gradual appreciation of the land itself as it becomes scarcer. Modeled returns are often in the high single digits.
Then there are higher risk, higher potential reward things.
Like small businesses or angel investing. That's where you see the highest average returns, maybe 20–25%. But
Big but.
hugely skewed returns. Something like only 1 out of 9 angel investments actually makes money. Most fail completely. You need enough capital to spread bets widely and enough expertise or time to vet deals. It's active.
Fascinating area, though. And royalties. Music, books.
Yeah, intellectual property rights. They can generate steady income streams, often totally uncorrelated with the stock market, which is attractive.
And their value is linked to that Lindy effect idea.
Often, yeah. The Lindy effect suggests that the longer a non-perishable thing like an idea or a song has been around, the longer its future life expectancy is likely to be.
So a Beatles song is likely to keep earning royalties for longer than a hit song from last year.
Statistically, yes. It's proven its staying power. New hits are often overvalued because of recency bias. Old classics might be undervalued based on their demonstrated longevity.
Interesting way to think about asset life. Okay, but let's swing back to stocks. If JKB into broad funds is the core advice, why specifically avoid picking individual stocks?
Well, first, the emotional roller coaster.
Mm.
The book mentions a friend, Darren, losing $12,000 in 2 hours on GameStop.
Oof. That kind of volatility just invites bad decisions. Panic selling, revenge trading.
Totally. But even setting emotions aside, the odds are just stacked against you.
How bad?
Even the pros struggle. 75% of professional active fund managers fail to beat their simple benchmark index over 5 years. 3/4.
So the pros can't reliably do it.
And here's the killer stat for individual stock pickers. Since 1926, the entire net gain of the U.S. stock market, above just holding risk-free treasury bills, came from only the best-performing 4% of stocks.
4%. All the market's outperformance came from just 4 out of 100 stocks.
Yes, the other 96%. In aggregate, they basically matched T-bills or underperformed. Most stocks are duds over the long run. Companies die. 78% of U.S. companies listed in 1950 were gone by 2009.
So unless you're incredibly skilled or incredibly lucky to find those few big winners.
You're almost guaranteed to underperform just by the whole haystack, the index fund.
And it's hard to even know if you are skilled. The feedback loop is terrible.
Exactly. Did your stock pick work because you were smart or just lucky? It takes years, sometimes decades, to even begin to disentangle skill from luck in investing. It's just not worth the mental energy or the high probability of lagging for most people.
Stick to the index funds. Got it. Okay, where to put those funds? Let's talk retirement accounts. Traditional versus Roth 401k.
The core difference is when you pay the income tax. Traditional, you get a tax deduction now, pay taxes on withdrawal and retirement. Roth, you pay taxes now. Withdrawals and retirement are tax-free.
So the decision depends on
Your expected tax rate now versus your expected tax rate in retirement. If you think your tax rate will be higher later, Roth is better now. If you think your rate is higher now, traditional is better.
Which way do people usually lean?
Often towards traditional, especially higher earners now. Why? It offers more flexibility, more optionality.
How so?
With a traditional 401k or IRA, you can strategically do Roth conversions later in life, during years when your income is low. Maybe you take a sabbatical, retire early before Social Security kicks in. You convert some traditional money to Roth then, paying taxes at that temporarily low rate.
Ah, so you effectively lock in a lower tax rate than you might have paid if you'd gone Roth during peak earning years.
Exactly. It gives you more control over the timing of taxation.
Okay, now for the really controversial bit from the book. Why might a young person not want to automatically max out their 401k beyond the employer match? Isn't max it out standard advice?
It is standard advice, but the book argues the actual net benefit might be smaller than people think, especially when considering the trade-offs.
Smaller. How? The tax break seems huge up front.
When you run the numbers carefully, considering the eventual taxes paid on traditional withdrawals, often at lower retirement rates, and the effective taxes within a taxable account, like lower long-term capital gains rates, the annual after-tax advantage of the 401k over a well-managed taxable account is maybe only around 0.6% to 0.73% per year.
Wait, less than a 1% per year extra return from the tax shelter?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah?
And that small benefit can be completely wiped out if your 401k plan has high fees.
Oh, hi.
If your 401k fees are more than about 0.83% per year higher than what you could get in a low-cost brokerage account, the entire tax advantage disappears. You're paying more in fees than you're gaining in tax benefits.
Okay, so the benefit is maybe small and potentially zero if fees are high. What's the trade-off?
Illiquidity. Money in a 401k is generally locked up until age 59 and a half. Is that tiny potential extra return worth sacrificing access to your capital for decades?
Especially if you have major goals before then, like buying a house.
Exactly. If maxing out your 401k early on prevents you from saving enough for a down payment on a house in your 30s, you miss out on leverage, potential appreciation, stability. The cost of that illiquidity could be far greater than the small tax benefit you gained.
The author regretted doing that himself, right? Maxing out too young, then being cash-strapped for a down payment later.
Yeah, it's a real-world consequence. Prioritize the match, definitely. But beyond that, weigh the small tax gain against your need for liquidity for major life goals before retirement.
Okay, that's a really important perspective shift. What about selling? If you do need to sell investments, maybe a concentrate stock position, or just for a goal, rule of thumb.
The mantra is, buy quickly, sell slowly.
Sell slowly. Why?
2 main reasons: managing regret and managing taxes. Selling a large position gradually over time reduces the chance you'll kick yourself if the price shoots up right after you sell. It also helps spread out capital gains taxes over multiple years, potentially keeping you in lower tax brackets.
And why should you sell? Only for specific reasons.
The book suggests only 3 valid reasons. 1. Rebalancing your portfolio back to its target weights. 2. A fundamental change in your belief about the asset itself. For example, your original investment thesis is broken. 3. You've reached a specific financial goal that the investment was earmarked for.
Not just because the market looks scary or you want to lock in games.
No, those are emotional reasons. Sticking to the plan. And there's a crucial philosophical rule about selling, especially with concentrated positions like company stock.
Which is?
Fund the life you need before you risk it for the life you want.
Meaning secure the basics first.
Absolutely. Use some of that concentrated gain to build a safety net, pay off high-interest debt, maybe even pay off your mortgage, secure your essential retirement funds, lock down the need-to-haves before you let the rest ride for the nice-to-haves or speculative growth. Don't risk what you need for something you merely want.
That's powerful. Secure the base first. Okay, finally. The most important asset of all, underpinning everything.
Time.
Time. Peter Attia's thought experiment really hits this home.
Yeah, would anyone trade places with 87-year-old Warren Buffett, even for all his billions?
No way. You can always make more money, theoretically. You absolutely cannot make more time.
It's the ultimate finite resource, and its value is immense, even if unseen, like the story of Dafroth Manji, the mountain man in India.
Right, he carved a path through a mountain.
With just a hammer and chisel. Took him 22 years. He traded his most abundant asset, his time, his persistence, for something incredibly valuable to his community that couldn't be bought with money he didn't have.
An incredible demonstration of time's power.
And this relates directly back to human capital versus financial capital.
When you're young, your human capital, your ability to work and earn is high, but it declines over time.
Every year you work, the present value of your future earnings potential shrinks. The only way to guarantee income continues after your ability or desire to work fades is to have built up enough financial capital assets to replace it.
That conversion of human capital to financial capital is the whole point of investing over a lifetime.
It is, which is why the author kicks himself for obsessing over optimizing his tiny portfolio at age 23.
When he should have focused on
His career, his human capital. That's where the biggest income growth happens, typically between ages 25 and 35. Focus on boosting your earning power first. That's the biggest lever early on.
Get the income engine running strong first. You can always optimize investments later.
Exactly. But even after all this, building wealth, converting capital, you probably still won't feel rich.
That feeling is so elusive, like Lloyd Blankfein, former Goldman CEO, worth billions.
Calling himself just well-to-do, not rich.
Why is that?
It's partly the friendship paradox applied to wealth. In any social network, most people can easily point to someone they know who is wealthier than they are. Comparison is constant.
So unless you're literally the richest person on earth,
You can always look up and see someone with more. Richness becomes this constantly receding horizon, a relative target.
the key then is to maybe stop looking up so much.
Or at least remember that for everyone you're looking up at, there are likely hundreds or thousands looking up at you. Be aware of your relative position globally, perhaps, and focus on your own goals, your own fulfillment, independent of those comparisons.
Okay, let's bring it all together. A final wrap-up. If we could send a message back in time to our younger selves, what are the absolute core JKB rules from this deep dive?
Rule 1. Focus relentlessly on income growth, especially early on. Remember, the law of the stomach cutting spending has limits. Growing income has far more potential.
Rule 2. Use the 2x rule for guilt-free luxury spending and the 50% rule for raises and bonuses. Keep lifestyle creep in check. Half for now, half for future you.
Rule 3. Invest to replace human capital with financial capital. Think like an owner. Acquire income-producing assets. And please, please don't buy individual stocks. Stick to diversified, low-cost funds.
Rule 4. Buy quickly, sell slowly. Invest lump sums immediately, maybe in a conservative portfolio if nervous. Only sell for rational reasons, rebalancing broken thesis, reaching a goal, and sell gradually.
Rule 5. Embrace volatility as the price of admission. Expect 10–15% drops. View major crashes, 30% plus, as buying opportunities, not reasons to panic.
Rule 6. Be smart about fees and liquidity. Understand the real, often small benefit of tax-advantaged accounts versus their lockup costs. Don't sacrifice major life goals for a tiny tax edge.
Rule 7. Always fund the life you need before risking capital for the life you merely want. Secure your base.
And the final overarching rule.
Remember, time is your most valuable non-renewable asset, more valuable than any amount of money.
So the final thought for everyone listening isn't about hitting a specific number, given you'll likely never feel objectively rich anyway.
The real question is, what steps can you take, starting today, right now, to use your precious time to build a life that provides that deeper sense of fulfillment, autonomy, mastery, purpose, regardless of what the stock market does next week or next year?
That feels like the ultimate winning strategy. Focus on the life, not just the number.
Exactly. That's the game worth playing.